Fab. Okay. Hi Rosy, how are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Not too bad. How's work going today?
Yes, just finishing lots of things off. Yeah, just sort of writing up the last few competencies of my current specialism and getting trying to desperately get all the last minute corrections done as well. When people give you corrections, then they slowly go to the end of the pile.
Like chasing people for feedback, like
yeah, yeah, lots of chasing. But yeah, otherwise clearing out the desk and then just getting ready for my week off next week.
Nice. That sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything nice, or are you just having a break?
Not very much. I'm off to London to see my friend, or maybe go wedding dress shopping. Maybe go wedding dress shopping while I'm there. So and then Wednesday, one of my old PhD people is having their viva, so we'll have to celebrate that. Yeah, otherwise just doing nothing.
Yeah, the dream. Fab. So can you just give a little bit of background on or just say what your specialism is, like where you're based, that kind of thing?
Yes, so I'm based at Addenbrookes in Cambridge, and I'm a medical physics trainee specialising in imaging with ionising radiation. So it's basically a mixture of both diagnostic radiology and nuclear medicine, which don't really necessarily fit together, but they do in the current curriculum. They are actually being split up when we had the curriculum review, because they don't match together at all. Nobody has a job in imaging with ionising radiation. You are a DR physicist, a diagnostic radiology physicist, or you're a nuclear med physicist, and so smushing them together is a little bit strange. Yeah, so I'm specialising in that with the hope to go into nuclear medicine at the end.
Okay. Yeah,
but I've not done.
If you've got like a goal.
yeah, I've not done that bit of my specialism yet, so we'll that's what
I find medical physics like mad because there's so many of you. I can't wrap my head around it, and then there's like 4 different extra specialisms on the side. It's insane.
Yeah, I didn't realise that we were so big as a specialism. Actually, I just assumed that all specialisms had 100 people in, and that was perfectly normal. And yeah, when you hear that, there's 5 people in a specialism across the entire country, you're like, oh,
yeah,
wow, there's a lot. There's only one other medical physicist at the hospital with me, and I was like, oh, that's not very many. But yeah, for some people, they can't even dream of meeting that other trainee.
I know, it's crazy, especially with COVID. Like normally you'd just all go to uni and you'd meet each other there, but no,
yeah, nothing.
Crazy. Fab. So where have you been at the moment then? Is that the radiation side of it, if you can't do nuclear medicine?
Yeah, so I'm currently just finishing off my diagnostic radiology side of the specialism, and it's based in a strange turn of events. It's based in the Radiation Protection Service, which is actually a different specialism. But those 2 types of physics go much more closely together. So often you'll find people who work in radiation protection also know a lot about DR, and here it's one melded team. There are distinct radiation protection physicists and distinct DR physicists, but it is one melded team. So I'm currently down there at the moment. We do have some lovely offices in the basement of Addenbrookes. Hence why there are no windows in here, in the roof.
I saw that so like stereotypical, like put the physicists in the basement. Like.
Yeah, very much so. But no, otherwise that's the only downside of it. Yeah, it's that it's in the basement. But otherwise, it's been such a great rotation. It's I was really, really lucky to do my DR specialism here because they're so it's the East Anglian Regional Radiation Protection Service. So they do all of East Anglia, which means I get to travel to Norwich and to Peterborough, down to Southend, and really experience a really wide range of services and equipment. And so I've been very, very lucky to experience that. Yeah.
Have you been able to do it even with COVID and everything?
Yeah, they've been really great at it. They sort of said, oh, we will continue doing training surveys because you need to do your training, but measures are in place. We don't car share. We make sure we wear masks. Things are cleaned. Whoever's using the laptop, they're the one using the laptop, and no stuff like that. But yeah, they've been really, really great at it. I was sort of quite lucky that by the time I joined, about this time last year, they had just started to get the hang of things, of how everything was going to work. So yeah, it's been very good.
That's fun. Does your other trainee that's with you, have they done like the nuclear medicine side, or are they with you in the diagnostic radiology as well? Like, do you split up, or do you do it all at the same time?
Oh, so yeah, it's two completely different split things. So yeah, so I'm now done with this. I've done all my competencies for this side, apart from like 1 or 2, and I'm off to nuke med department as of not next Monday, the Monday after. But obviously they all work together. You know, these are nuke med monitors that we have right here. So they do work together. It's all in the same hospital. But yeah, I'll be out of the basement, up on the 3rd floor.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'll have news.
So what is it that you do in each side? That's probably quite a big open-ended question. But... Yes,
but it's good. So in DR, currently where I am in herbs, it's a lot of QA. So we go around and do routine surveys on all of the equipment in the East Anglian region. So all the CT machines, all the X-ray machines, all the detectors, all the DEXAs, all the fluoroscopy units, and we check on a yearly basis that they work in a physics way, if that makes sense. Like, we're not checking they turn on and off in an engineering way, and if it didn't, we would have no idea what to do. But we're checking that like the amount of radiation that it outputs is similar to last year still, and if it isn't, why isn't it? Is it a reasonable reason, or do we need to get the engineers in to come and fix something? Because we can never fix it ourselves, we always have to get the engineers in. Much more technical than we are at these things. There's a lot of that, a lot of then writing up obviously the surveys and stuff. Then obviously there is some of the radiation protection stuff merged into that. So obviously doing audits of places, so making sure that they're following local, that they've got appropriate local rules, that they have contingency plans in place, that they're monitoring their radiation levels correctly and stuff like that. So sometimes that plays into it a little bit as well. And then in nuke med, on the other side, there's still the QA, there's still obviously the equipment, and we QA our own equipment. But in nuke med, it's just a department. Although we do provide services to Peterborough, and I want to say Kings Lynn as well, but don't hold me to that. Definitely Peterborough. So we do their QA as well. And then it's a lot of again, legislation, looking through legislation, making sure that we're putting protocols into place that are following the legislation for the different radionuclides that we use, radiopharmaceuticals we use. There's therapies as well. So a lot of people don't know that nuke med isn't just imaging, it's also therapies. So injecting people with alpha and beta emitting radionuclides that work to target cancers. So that's cool. Quite a big part of what the physicists do, and that's really exciting. And then cleaning up when people spill radioactive stuff everywhere. So they are quite two different jobs, but they're both really good fun. I really enjoy them both. I was actually a radiotherapy specialist when I started this year, same as Liam, but I actually swapped specialisms because I enjoyed med rotation so much.
That's really good that you're able to like change specialisms.
Yeah, it's there's this sort of feeling from the school that you're not really allowed to, but my training officer was really good at sort of just getting it sorted. You do have to check with them, and you have to check like quite high up, like where the funding comes from. Because obviously Addenbrookes asked for funding for a radiotherapy trainee, and I'm like, no. But she was really keen. So my training officer happens to be the head of nuke med. She was quite keen for me to swap as well. Given that I enjoyed nuke med, I think she would have rather I was happy doing something else I enjoyed than just sticking where I was.
Wow, I didn't know that like it was that easy to do. I hadn't met anyone that had swapped, so.
I think it's not uncommon in physics because, like you say, we have those 4 specialisms.
Yeah, I guess.
And a lot of people start undefined. So a lot of people, like with clinical engineering as well, it's only some hospitals that will say we are looking for this trainee. A lot of people start undefined and then pick at the end of their rotations.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah. So is DR kind of more working with the machines, and then in nuclear medicine, if you've got like therapies and stuff, do you see patients a little bit more, or is that
a lot more? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot more, and that's one of the reasons I really enjoy it, and also one of the reasons that we're not in the basement in nuke med, because
that's true.
We're there in the nuke med department, which is really nice. It's another reason that I love nuke med. You know, you're sat in the office next to the nurses, who are sat in the office with the techs, and you know, it's all just one sort of cohesive team that's right there and then, and I really like that aspect of it.
That's good. It's nice that you get a bit of patient interaction as well. Like even if you were going to specialise in DR at the end, like genomics isn't patient facing, but we still go and do genomic counselling, so like the patient side of things. So
yeah. I think it is nice. It brings it back sometimes to the patient. I think sometimes it's easy when you're not patient facing to forget that that's the reason that you're doing everything. And you sort of have to, like, I've had CBDs before where people will ask me questions and I'll answer in a really physics manner, but what they're wanting from me is to say because of patient safety or something like that. But sometimes it's easy to get you thinking, wow, you do this because of this physics reason. It's physics, physics. And so it is nice when they're a bit more in your face to remember.
So do you, when you're doing the travelling, do you just do kind of days to the different places, or will you go to Peterborough for a week and then?
Yeah, it's just a day, because it'll just be one piece of equipment normally that we'll just go for. So we're quite lucky that ERPS has a department car, which is very nice, automatic cruise control with lane assist. And then Addenbrookes also have a set of pool cars, which you can hire if the ERPS car is out, because not everyone here can drive the ERPS car, because you have to be, no, not everyone here can drive the pool cars because you have to be over 25 to drive them.
Really?
So, yeah, they're quite fussy with that. So a lot of our younger techs especially can't drive them yet, even though they've maybe been driving longer than some of the older people. So yes, we have the ERPS car as well, and that just helps because we have to lug loads of stuff around, all of this. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's good. So who do you train with then? Are you training with the women that helped you kind of move to nuke med, or like ionising radiation, or do you have specific trainers for like each piece of equipment, or?
So the Sarah, who is head of nuke med, she's my overall training officer, and she'll be more involved when I'm in nuke med. But here, when I'm in ERPS, I do have sort of an overall training coordinator, and they all have specific names. I can never remember any of them. But yeah, certainly for the different equipment. So like we have Katie, who is the CT lead. So very much she's been doing all my CT competencies and been checking out how to do CT. And then we had Rachel, who is the fluoro person, and Anna, who's the dental person, and Eddie, who's the vet person. And so it has been, it's definitely been a group effort to train me. And I think that's been really nice as well, because it does give you a much broader view of everything. You're not just learning from one person. And for some of the stuff, I mean, like all the monitor stuff, that's all done by the techs. So they taught me all of that and stuff. Or have you frozen? Oh, you're back.
Sorry, I think the connect this one. There we go. I think that's okay now.
How far did I get in my ramble?
Let me think. You were talking about how it was like all big group, but yeah, kind of like specialised.
Yeah. So that was good. But yeah, and then when I go to nuke med, again, I'll have Dan, who will be my training coordinator, who'll be sort of more specifically involved with my training. Obviously, Sarah's obviously the head of nuke med, or head of physics. Yeah. But I think again, it will be a group effort, because he's in charge of one thing, someone else is in charge of therapy, someone else is in charge of PET, someone else, so it's it'll be from each of those people.
I think you said that there was one other trainee with you.
Yes,
right?
In the year
in the year above, I was going to ask, is he or she in your year or are they in like a different year?
Yeah, so he's the year above me. He's also an imaging with ionising trainee. He was originally an imaging with ionising trainee. Yeah, he's in the year above me. But there's technically 3 of us in my year, but we're part of the Cambridge Consortium or East Anglia Consortium. I don't know how it's called. So one's based in Norwich. She's a radiotherapy physicist, and then one's based in Colchester and Ipswich. Oh, I lost you again. Oh.
We'll see if that works. Luckily, I can kind of trim these.
Yeah.
Trim out those bits.
So yeah, so 3 of us, one in Norwich and then one in Colchester and Ipswich. She's joint between the 2. Same as Liam. She's in the same place as Liam, but she's a radiation protection physicist. But yeah, we don't get to see each other very much.
Oh, at least there's a few of you, so you can kind of bounce ideas off each other or questions.
Yeah, it's mostly moaning with each other. That's what, whenever we get together, we can moan with each other. But that is really nice. It's nice to all get together and just have that.
What was your background before?
It was definitely not a medical physics background. So I did my undergraduate in physics at the University of Nottingham. Had no thought about medical physics, had never really heard of it. Really thought I was going to be an astrophysicist, as everyone does when they do physics at uni. Everyone's enamored by astrophysics. Took one module of astrophysics and was like, this is not for me, and swapped to the theoretical physics pathway instead. So I became a theoretical physicist, did my PhD in quantum physics, theoretical quantum physics, and then did a postdoc. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I didn't want to stay in academia. I stayed and did a postdoc because my supervisor was just the most amazing person. And honestly, if he'd asked me to do a 10-year postdoc, I probably would have agreed to. But he just asked if I'd just stay for a year, get some stuff finished off, and just go from there. I was like, okay, yeah, fine. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Thought I maybe wanted to become a data scientist. And then my supervisor started working closely with the medical physics group at the University of Nottingham. And that's quite a big group because that's where the MRI was invented. So it's quite a big group there. And they're currently working on a new piece of technology called magnetoencephalography, where you measure the magnetic fields coming off your brain. And it's amazing what they're doing. Honestly,
that sounds insane.
It's incredible stuff because it's completely passive and non-invasive.
Yeah.
And completely, and there's no radiation involved. So obviously that's why people like MRI, because there's no radiation involved. But some people do still, obviously there are still worries about, the giant magnets. There are danger aspects to it, not from radiation, but from other aspects of it. And people, we do research on if there are any effects. As of yet, I think the answer is no. But that's the great thing about magnetoencephalography or MEG, that you're not doing anything to the person. You're just measuring the signals, much like with EEG or ECG. Yeah. And so they found some really interesting stuff already. There was an experiment they did about finger movement. So they measured the brain activity in people with sort of what you might call normal brains, and saw a given response when someone moved their finger, and then did the same experiment with people with schizophrenia and saw a different response, which was fascinating. But that's a side note. And yes, my supervisor started working closely with this group because they were looking to use quantum technologies for the sensors. And then that's when I discovered medical physics. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
This is a whole new world for me. And I thought, okay, maybe do I want postdoc in medical physics? Because it's not unusual for people to swap specialisms at postdoc level. But then I thought, no, I actually want to leave academia. And so I found out about the STP and applied, and here I am.
The rest is history. That's so cool, though. I hadn't heard of that magnetic brain thing.
Yeah, it's incredible the stuff that's coming out of it. It's there's quite a lot of work going into it. But yeah, they have I mean, some places still already use it clinically. It's not like this is a completely brand new technology. Some places already use it to help localize seizures. But what's really good about what they're doing at Nottingham is the ones that are being used clinically use what's called SQUIDs, which are superconducting quantum interference devices. And they have to be cryogenically cooled to be able to be used. So you have a huge tank of helium on your head. And you can only get them so close to your skull surface because they're really cold. And so you have to be very still. You can't do any sort of, and obviously for children, that can be really difficult. For people with things like epilepsy, that can be incredibly difficult. Just for people in general, it's incredibly difficult. And so what they're doing at Nottingham is they're 3D printing masks using with these new quantum sensors with video vapor cells so that people can do things. So it made BBC News actually a while back, where she was playing, she was sort of, ping pong and bat, and you sort of, I don't know how you describe that, and still managing to pick up measurements, whereas you'd never been able to do that with the current setup.
That's so cool. I've never heard of that before.
I hadn't before.
How has your uni been this year? I know for some medical physicists, they did uni until Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't have any after that, but I don't know if that's the same for you.
So for the first year, we just 3 months down at King's, smashed out the first bit of the masters, and that was really great. I had been really nervous about it because obviously I'd gone through uni, I'd done a PhD, done my postdoc, and I was a bit like, I'm going to be much older than the other trainees. Is this like, how awkward is it going to be? But actually, it was really great. It didn't feel like going back to undergrad uni. People felt involved and passionate about what they were doing, and that was really, really good. And then you go away and you do no more until a year later, where you do 2 modules. This year they were online, obviously, which wasn't as great. And then you do the exams, and that's it. Yeah, so I'm completely done with uni apart from the master's project.
That's amazing.
So it is nice to get it out of the way, but I know that some people have found it really stressful, sort of just smashing it out. But it was nice not to have to go back to London for it, but obviously it's not quite the same. You don't get to meet up with everyone and have a fun time.
That's just like the epitome of this year, is like not meeting up with anyone.
Yeah, definitely. But soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, hopefully. Have you had any thoughts for your research project?
So it's already in motion. So I'm hoping to use deep learning techniques to create a neural network to help diagnose adrenal adenomas from PET scans. So have you heard of neural networks?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so you input the information in a load of sort of numbers, so normalized pixel values is your sort of classic one, and for a simple linear one, you would then have a load of weights that connected every neuron in your input to every neuron in the next layer. And this is why they're called neural networks, because we pretend that they're neurons.
Okay.
You can imagine it if you had dots of neurons, and then each neuron is connected to each neuron in the next layer by a line. And all of these have a random number assigned to them that you multiply them together to get the weight on the next level.
Okay.
And you have lots of layers, and you get to an output. And the output can be anything from yes, no, in this case. So my first neural network will probably say something like, is there an adenoma? Yes, no. Or the classic neural network of a number recognition, handwritten number recognition. Obviously, you'd have outputs ranging from 1 to 10, or more conventionally 0 to 9. And you let it go through, you give it an example, and you get something out, and first time you get it out, it's going to be complete rubbish because you've not taught the neural network anything. But then you say to the neural network, look, this is what you put out, this is how terrible it is. You give it a function. You say, this is how terrible it is, a cost function. And it feeds that information back, making itself a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And you give it another number. You say, this is how terrible you are. It feeds it all back.
Okay.
And it changes all these weights and there's biases as well, until eventually it can do this task that you've given it, such as handwritten number recognition. But you can never really, it's difficult to say what it's actually doing. It's difficult to say why that weight is 0.2. And that's where then it becomes a bit of a black box. And that's when obviously people then get worried, because, well, if we start using AI and deep neural networks and it misdiagnoses, who's to blame? The person who created the neural network, You can't sue a neural network.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have these issues in other things already. So neural networks creating pieces of music. Well, who owns that piece of work? There's already some tricky legal things going on here. But yeah, and then you can get other layers where rather than just having linear operations, you do convolutional operations instead, and they're really good for image recognition, which is obviously what this is. So it's really fun stuff. I've written the neural network that does handwritten number recognition, because that's the classic one that everyone starts with, and I just sit there at home and play with it. I'll draw a number, get it to tell me what number it is.
Oh, that's cute.
Very
That's cute. That's amazing that you've already started thinking, or already got a full plan in mind.
We had to hand in our abstracts back in April.
Wow.
So
So how much of next year and third year do you spend on your research project then? Like how's the rotation split and stuff?
So it sort of depends on what age you're in. They sort of recommend like 1 day a week you spend on it. But I think, given that mine is sort of a theoretical computational project that isn't sort of reliant on other people, so I know both the people in the year, I know the person in the year above me, his was reliant on actual experiments, and so he did need the time where things were available, etc. Whereas because mine's just pure computational, we're probably just going to take 6 weeks and just smash it out. And then write it up at some other point. But yeah, they recommend one day a week for.
That's amazing. That's crazy. Oh, well done.
I'm really excited for it. I can't wait. I think I always think the STP doesn't necessarily put enough focus on being research scientists. I don't know how it is in your sort of specialism, but I feel like sometimes in my specialism they forget. The STP forgets that we're meant to be research scientists, clinical scientists who do research as well at the end of this. Sometimes I feel there isn't enough emphasis on this, so I'm quite excited to do the project.
Yeah, definitely. I've not begun thinking about mine yet. I know I want to do something in rare disease, but that's as far as I've got.
What year are you?
First year.
Oh, okay. Yes, you've got plenty of time then. Yeah.
If I said like third year, that would be a disaster.
Probably should have had some idea.
Something right now. Amazing. So is there anything else that you particularly wanted to say, or any tips or anything that you have for anyone thinking of applying?
Oh, tips for people thinking of applying.
Sorry, very big question.
I think really take time over writing those answers to the 200-word answers to the and probably everyone says that, but they are so. I spent maybe a week writing those, rewriting, getting people to read them, rewriting. I think sometimes people approach them a little bit too casually. Yeah. It's it's just 200 words, I'll just smash it out, cool, great, done. But they are so important in your shortlisting or long listing. I can't remember now. It's been too long.
Yeah, I think it is shortlisting because
shortlisting again
was the tests.
Yeah. So I think really paying attention to them. I think people sometimes overlook them a little bit maybe. But otherwise I think just keep upbeat about it. I know so many people apply for it with the assumption they won't get in first time because they've heard that from other people. Nobody gets onto the STP first time, but loads of people do. Loads of people don't. There's no right way to go about it. But I think people go into it with with not a lot of optimism sometimes, like, oh well, I won't get in because it's my first time trying.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
First time I applied, I was like, nah, won't get it. Didn't get it, but
yeah, and a lot of people don't. It is very competitive. But yeah, I think sometimes I've known people talk themselves out of it almost, and they've applied for other things, and you know, and then ended up getting on, and then worried about the time they wasted applying for these other things.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and then I guess anything else is think about your trainee network board. I've got to push that. I'm on the trainee network board. Think about your trainee networks. They're such useful skills. I think it's been unfortunate this year that we've missed a lot of people because we didn't have that Birmingham conference. We did online, but it wasn't the same. We weren't a physical presence, and we've missed a lot of trainees this year that we're slowly trying to find and introduce the network and be like, hey, look, we're here. We can do things. We can organise events. Especially, we can start to actually organise events now. We can be here for you to talk, you know, to moan to ask ideas about how to do this competency. You know, obviously we don't have all the answers. There's only so many of us with so many specialisms. But yeah, I think people, when they join, really think about joining your training network. They're such useful.
I'll link your network into it.
That's so useful.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, and I hope the rest of your Friday is good. Almost at the end of the day.
Almost, yeah. Train home soon. So thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
No worries.